Good morning. My name is the Reverend Dave Clements. I serve this congregation as the interim minister. And so happy to have members, friends, guests join us today as we come together to worship. May we all be edified and uplifted as we join at this time together. And Linda, what's happening this coming week in our church?
Even though we're not together in this building, we have a lot of things that are going on. First of all, Wednesday, April 8th at 7 p.m., there will be a Zoom meeting where we will share joys and sorrows. And please bring a reading that you'd like to share. Thursday, we will hold a Zoom meeting for the adult RE and invite you to join us as we discuss our new church read. We'll begin that with a TED Talk. You'll be able to order the book from your favorite place to order things, and you can also put it on your Kindle. Friday, April 10th at 9:30, we're going to have that's 9:30 a.m. We're going to have muffins and coffee chat with the ministers on Zoom. And the links for all of these things will be sent out. So watch your flock note. And if you'd like to have something announced, please contact Rev Dave or me. And do that by Thursday of each week. And we will try to get that announcement into our weekly newsletter, or if it's appropriate, something that we'll share with everyone in the next Sunday service. Now for our opening hymn. It's one you all know. It's Now Let Us Sing. And there will be a video of a church choir. You'll be able to join in with them. The words will be shown on the screen. Now there are 4 quick verses. Sing to the power, sing to the hope, sing to the love, and sing to the joy. I invite you all to join in singing. This morning are a take on Psalm 23. This was written by one of my classmates and now colleague, Reverend Kevin Tarsa. May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide always, shepherding me toward ways of openness and compassion. I have what I need, really, with love at my side, above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me. Love infused everywhere. Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the center of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed. And so love quietly sets me down again on its tender and demanding path. Even when the walls close around me and the cries of death echo through untold corners, gripping my heart with fears and sadness, I know that all will be well, that I will be well when love whispers near me, glints at the corner of my eye, rests with gentle and persistent invitation upon my shoulders. Yes, love blesses me, even as the sources and symbols of my pain look on. Love blesses me from its infinite swell, and I turn and notice that goodness and kindness and grace follow me everywhere, everywhere I go. I live in a house of love, love that will not let me go. I live in a house of love and always will. Come, let us worship together. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our soloist, Natasha Green.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. Oh, in the world we'll live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people living, sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I know I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live
And thank you, Natasha, for that beautiful solo. And now we will light the chalice. It takes a match, a source, and intention to light the fire, which then pays it forward in illumination, in brilliance, in warmth. Just as it takes a heart of flame to pay forward light and love into the world. May we each choose to strike the match, to be the source, and to have the intention. And now I'd like to introduce one of our youth, Jordan Thomas, who is sharing a reflection with us today.
Hi, my name is Jordan Thomas, and I am a senior in high school, and these are my Corona thoughts and quarantine reflections. Yes, I said I am a senior during the global pandemic of Corona, and so that means prom and graduation may be postponed and or canceled entirely. So are my memories that I plan to make with my friends at prom, at graduation, and in the next 3 months before we all head our separate ways to go to college. I not only am a senior during the global pandemic, but I am an extrovert, so it's extra hard for me to stay inside and not be active when I talk to people. Yes, video chatting is an option, and yes, we are in the age of technology where that is readily available for most people, but it's not the same as going out to your friend's house and seeing them and hugging them and saying hello in person. But the thing is that if we don't follow what the CDC says, where we wash our hands and sanitize consistently, then this pandemic could last even longer than we wanted it to in the first place. Originally, I remember we were all joking about Corona. We were like, oh, Coronacation, it's going to be like just a little bit of a longer spring break. It'll be a good time, and then we're going to come right back to school. That was not the case. We are now sitting here quarantined, taking online classes instead of being with our friends and joking around. It's hitting hard for all the grades, but the seniors are getting it most, I think. We have a huge level of uncertainty, and we aren't even sure when this is going to be over. I know that nobody has the answer to when it's going to be over, but it hits very different. Another thing I've noticed is that the youth will go outside and they will go see their friends, and it doesn't matter to them. Just because Corona can't affect the young kids, don't worry. Yes, it can. It can affect the young kids in ways that they couldn't imagine. Like, if I got it, I could pass it to someone in my family. I could pass it to one of my friends' family members, etc. And it would keep going. So we need to stay inside. We need to stay quarantined. And at this point, now we wear masks too when we go out. We gotta keep safe, just for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan, for that wonderful reflection. And now we'll hear from Amy Popp, our Director of Religious Education, as she shares a story, A Time for All Ages.
Good morning. In this time of pulling together and sharing compassion and concern, our story today is one that reminds us that paying our love and generosity forward has a way of coming back to make our own lives richer too. It is called the rolling coin. A wise old man once owned a precious golden coin. One day, as he sat gazing at the coin and its beauty, he thought that maybe it wasn't right that he should be the only person to have the pleasure of this golden coin. What use did it have if no one shared it? So he immediately went outside and gave the coin to a child passing by. Now the child couldn't believe her luck. She couldn't take her eyes off the shining coin. And then she had the sudden idea to give the coin to her mother, because They didn't have much money, and there were so many things to buy. So she gave it to her mother. Of course, the girl's mother was very happy with the coin. It was such an unexpected solution to so many of her problems. She wondered in her mind just how to spend it and what to buy first. Now, as she was thinking about this, there was a knock at the door, and there stood a homeless man. Poor soul, he has nothing, and we are just about getting by, the mother thought, and she handed the coin to the homeless man. Now the man was speechless. With the coin, he could buy enough food for a month. He made his way back to the subway where he slept, and there he noticed a new man just arrived. The poor man was blind and disabled, with no chance of getting anywhere near to the folks who might have spared him a coin or two. The homeless man figured that the blind man needed the coin even more than he did, and he pressed the coin into the man's thin, cold fingers. That evening, the wise old man walked through the dark subway. He noticed the blind, disabled man and stopped to talk to him. The blind man couldn't remember the last time that anyone had bothered to speak to him. After a while, the wise old man put his arm around the blind man's shoulder and said, "I'm sorry. I have nothing left to give you except my friendship." A tear rolled down the cheek of the blind, homeless man. He didn't know how he could ever repay this gift of human kindness that had changed a dark night into a new dawn. Then, with his shaking, aging hands, he reached into his pocket, brought out the golden coin, and gave it to his newfound friend. "Thank you for loving me," he said. And with that simple statement, the wise man was made truly rich. So as we move through the future days, may we all remember that as we care for and connect with others and share of ourselves and what we have, we are making both the world and ourselves richer for it. So be it.
Thank you, Amy, for that story. We won't have our usual song that we sing to walk the children out. I know that we miss that, and we miss the children. One of the things that we do each Sunday is to share our joys and sorrows. We have one sorrow to share, and that is that Ev Maloney's sister, who was 105 years old, passed away. We send our condolences to Ev and her family. Meditation for today is All That We Share is Sacred by Andre Mould. This blessing was written in honor of two Unitarians, Martha and Waitzel Sharp, who during World War II dared to risk their own lives. For the comfort of others and the safety. They helped to save the lives of people who were desperately in need. And the reading is, as we gather together, may we remember when you share with me what is most important to you. That is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you to shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that's where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. And now, let's share a few moments of silence. We have another reflection for you. Bradley Adams sends this for all to hear.
Hi, I'm Bradley Adams. I am a registered respiratory therapist at Unity Point Hospitals at Pekin Methodist and Proctor. And I am thankful for being able to speak with you today. I want to go over a couple of safety points that I'm sure almost all of you have heard before, but let's go for a little reinforcement. First, wash your hands. Scrub them good, 20 seconds at a time. Try to get under your fingernails, in between your fingers, the palms of your hands, up to your wrists. Wash. That's very, very important. Also, try not to touch your face. I know that's very difficult. I find myself touching my face all the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. Also, don't shake hands. If you need a little physical contact, bump elbows. That's okay. Don't touch things that other people have touched. Try not to use cash. Use your debit card. Cash and dollar bills are some of the most dirty things on the planet. So try to use your debit card. One of the most important things that we've all experienced recently is social distancing. That will flatten the curve and get us over this quicker without a lot of casualties, hopefully. And I find it very ironic how social distancing is actually bringing us closer together because we're working as a community even though we're not able to be together. We are using our distance to defeat this pandemic. And I just really think that is a beautiful thing. And then when the pandemic is over, let's embrace each other more than we ever have. It's very interesting that the far right, Christians in particular, are blaming queer folk for this pandemic, much as they did during the AIDS crisis in the 80s. But of course, then they could blame sodomy directly, not understanding how that disease actually was transmitted, straight people getting it also. But today, they're saying that the Marriage Equality Act, many of them are saying that the Marriage Equality Act is God's wanting to hurt us and strike us back for being sinners. And I am so thankful to have found this welcoming community that has a larger vision of how the world works and how society works. We're open-minded and we're not simplistic, and we see the bigger picture. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for Reverend Dave and for Linda, again, giving me this opportunity to speak with you. I'm thankful to be working, but at the same time, and I'm working a lot of hours, as are my wife Barb and all of our colleagues in the healthcare fields. I'm thankful to be working, but I'm also mindful of the people that are out of work and who are struggling and suffering because social distancing is very hurtful to the way they make their livings. So again, let's be safe out there, let's love each other, let's care, let's be kind, and as the Catholic priests used to say when I was an altar boy, peace be with you. Bless.
Thanks, Bradley, for that wonderful reflection. The Price is Right. For over 30 years, the popular game show, The Price is Right, has had a wide variety of contests and games, all with the same basic challenge. Guess the prices of everyday and not so everyday items. The contestants whose estimates are closest win the prizes and move on to more difficult games with even bigger prizes. For our purposes this morning, I'm not going to put up various items and have you guess the price, which would also actually be a really fun thing to do. But I do want you to think about the concept of the Price is Right in a new manner. What can you do in your everyday lives to move forward the concept of pay it forward? Pay it forward is an expression for describing the beneficiary of a good deed and repaying the kindness to others instead of to the original benefactor. Here are some examples. A young boy in the parking lot of Cracker Barrel found a $20 bill. As he went in and looked into the restaurant, he found a soldier, Colonel Frank Daly, and he decided to give the $20 bill to the soldier with this note. Dear soldier, my dad was a soldier, and I found this $20 in the parking lot when we got here. As a family, we like to pay it forward, so today's your lucky day. Thank you for your service. Signed, Michael Eckert. Daly was touched by the genuine gesture, and it didn't take long for this to go viral. And Kyle was on CBS. His video went to over 1 million views, and he was invited to appear on The Ellen Show. A year later, his family spearheaded a nonprofit organization called The Power of 20 for the sole purpose of giving on a greater scale to charities and families in need, all inspired by this one small boy's great simple act. In another case, Burns Jones was standing triumphantly at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro with his family, wishing he could buy a t-shirt or some kind of other gear to mark his wonderful accomplishment. That was hard to come by in Tanzania, so he decided to make a clothing line himself. But one wrinkle, he wanted to give back to the guides and porters who helped him up the mountain, and many of them were making less than $10 an hour. And so he decided to put together a thing called the Kilai Summit Club, a place where people could not only share pictures and stories of their climb, but buy merchandise where the proceeds would go in large part to the porters and to the guides. It was a simple idea that made a huge difference for people whose dangerous jobs go mostly unnoticed. Now, most pay it forward signs end within just the person behind you. However, at a Starbucks in St. Petersburg, Florida, one of their workers told the following story. The woman drove up, paid it forward to the person behind her, and for the next many hours, this continued until 365 people had paid it forward. I love these stories because they are all simple acts that each of us could do when we have the means to do. This past week, 25 of you who are members of this UU community received in the mail a letter from Reverend Linda and myself. In the letter, we described the concept of paying it forward. And in the letter, we included a $1 bill and asked you to be creative and find a way to pay that dollar forward. Reverend Linda and I look forward to the weeks ahead to hearing your stories of how you've chosen to pay it forward. For those of you who did not receive a letter, I challenge you this day to find each day a way to pay it forward. These past few weeks, I have often reflected upon a famous prayer that I'm sure many of you have heard, the Serenity Prayer. And it states, God grant me the serenity to change the things I can, to change the things I cannot, to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The coming of the coronavirus into our world has wreaked havoc, and this is one of those times to change the things that we can. Despite what is happening in the world, in our community, we still have the ability to choose, to decide, and change the things that we can. We are not powerless at this time. We can choose to change that which is around us that we can. There are two ways of exercising our power, hard power and soft power. Hard power is self-assertive. Your vote is an example of such. Soft power, on the other hand, is the power to let go, to relax. Soft power is like floating face up in a pool of water, and you just let the water carry you, and you don't try to take charge. Soft power is exactly what enabled individuals in my stories to get to a more creative place in dealing with all the heavy things in their lives. Our current situation is really a time for soft power. Soft power is that power that enables us to do what the Buddhist teacher Perma Chandran invites us. And I quote, letting there be room for not knowing, it is the most important thing of all. End of quote. When there's a big disappointment, we don't know if that's the end of the story. It may just be the beginning of a great adventure. Life is like that. We don't know anything. We call something bad, we call it good, but really, we just don't know. The writer Sylvia Bornstein calls the type of soft power surrender. She says, I discovered there are two modes of the heart. We can struggle or we can surrender. Surrender means wisely accommodating ourselves to what is beyond our control. Soft power, surrender power. We must use the power we do have differently. How will all of you choose to use your soft power? What price are you willing to pay? I ask all of you, is the price right? Will you accept the challenge to use your soft power to pay it forward? I promise you that paying it forward can be something that each of you can do in this next month. Perhaps you choose an individual or a family in this community, and you order online for them a meal and pay to have it delivered. Perhaps the next time you are at the grocery store or fast food or at the drugstore, you pay for the person behind you. Or perhaps you write a note to someone sharing with them how much their being a part of this community means to you. And ask them to do the same for someone else. Reverend Linda and I are amazed at how many of you are dealing with simple acts of kindness to many in our church community. It is my hope that in these coming weeks, each of you will find creative ways to use your soft power to pay it forward. The price is right, and the prize is a sense of peace and calmness and joy that can and will help to comfort, to build your inner resilience during these difficult times. May it be so. And now we'll prepare to have our offering. In our offering words, may you remember and recall the peace that you received knowing that you were a part of this community. And may you give an offering to sustain the church at this critical time. The offering can be done by a way of sending in a check, going to our website and making a financial pledge, hit the donate button, or texting by calling 833-484-0328. And now we will have our closing words.
It's been wonderful to be with you once again. And I know that this time together is precious. The closing words today are by Andrew Pacula. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, and remind you of all that is good and true. Until you gather here again in this place of love, we leave this sacred space.